Well, in the fallout of the GFC, a lot of finger-pointing and debate has centred on the giant and complex financial houses that run both investment and retail banking operations. Not only were they creating and selling the products that started the crisis rolling, their vulnerability and massive liabilities made the whole thing much worse. They were only saved by taxpayers and a policy that deemed them too big to fail. Banking reform is now very much central to patching up the damage wrought by the financial meltdown. I spoke to one of the world's top bankers, Citigroup CEO Vikram Pandit, when he was in Sydney on Friday. Well, Vikram Pandit, your predecessor Sandy Wheel has come out and said that banks that are too big to fail should perhaps be broken up and that we should return to Glass-Steagall. Can I ask firstly, what do you think of the fact that he said that, given that he was, in a way, instrumental in the repeal of Glass-Steagall back in the late 90s?
You know, I think the more important point to me is whether it's Sandy or everybody else, we're all concerned about the paramount question: how do you promote safety and soundness of the financial system? And that has to be the backdrop of thinking about banking, structure of the financial institutions, markets. And here in Australia and around the world, there's been a lot of work done. We've been very supportive of re-regulation, the right kind of regulation. And I think we're basically in the right place on finding that architecture and fabric that can end too big to fail and create safety and soundness.
The Volcker rule in the Dodd-Frank law was meant to sort of be a bit of a Glass-Steagall to separate out proprietary trading. Now, Citigroup obviously still does a lot of proprietary trading. Do you think that the Volcker rule was a good idea or a bad idea?
I think the concept of the Volcker rule is something we've supported. And the principle behind it is very simple, which is that bank capital should be reserved for use for our clients, and it shouldn't be there for us to put to use for ourselves. And therein lies the difference between a client-centric firm, a back-to-the-basics banking model, a bank supporting the real economy versus doing proprietary trading to enhance its returns. And I think that sort of a feature is heart of what banks should be doing, which is whether or not there was a Volcker rule, you've got to focus on what your main mission in life is. Ours is to enable progress for our clients, support the real economy, and so we've been very supportive of it. Now, the technicalities of how you put that to work are a little bit more difficult. I think we are going to get through it, but the net result on the other side, from a regulatory perspective, will be whether or not bank boards and bank managements embrace it, they will have to be in the client business.
Bankers aren't talking with one voice, though. I mean, your message, the things that you're saying about the culture of banking, the need to get back to basics, to regain trust, and to some extent you are embracing regulation. Other bank CEOs aren't doing that. They're resisting regulation with every breath of their being.
Hey, I'm here in Australia and look at the banking system here. You've done a pretty good job. Okay, I mean, just think about it. I've been to Canada. They've done a pretty good job. I've been to Southeast Asia. I've been to China. I've been to India. And you look around the world, by and large, you've got banks who understand their mission. By and large, you've got bank CEOs who understand it's about culture. And there are a lot of success stories around the world. Perhaps they're not the most vocal ones that talk about this. But on the other hand, I do think that sometimes it takes time for people who've been doing the same job for a long period of time to embrace, you know what, I need to change. Now, I didn't have that background when I came in. I was new and gave me an opportunity to rethink everything and think about what cities should be. And it was very clear to me it was not only about strategy, going back to our core heritage, but the culture was a dominant issue. And that's why responsible finance, to me, is at the heart of what we do at Citi.
Do you have an aspiration to get Citibank's market value back to book value? Do you think it's possible? And how long do you think that might take?
I think the most important thing we can do is we can control what we can control. And that, to me, is serving clients. That, to me, is by doing that, earning the return that my clients allow me to earn. And over the last 3-4 years, we've increased our book value about 13% a year. That's not bad in the U.S. in a 1.5% interest rate environment. So my number one goal is by serving clients correctly keep increasing that book value in a
The
steady way.
market's not recognising the increase in book value, is it?
And you know, I think I would agree with you that we all feel that the valuations of the market don't reflect the value we're creating. There are lots of reasons for that. Europe, there's the U.S. fiscal deficit. There is still the question of how much more regulation, where is it going? There is regulatory uncertainty. Look at some of the things we've talked about. So inevitably, there is an overhang in the markets, particularly in the West, on bank stocks, and therefore these stocks are not reflecting the true 13% a year increase in book value.
Just on Europe, do you think the euro will or can survive?
There is nothing more that I would like than that. We think Europe is stronger with the euro. We think Europe is stronger with a strong euro, and we're going to do everything we can to help them get to that point. Having said that, as a bank, you know, you got to be ready for every eventuality, and we're not in the business of handicapping exactly what happens and when it happens. The most important thing we can do for our clients and for our shareholders is be prudent, and we are ready for any eventuality.
How do you prepare for a breakup of the euro?
I think you do that by limiting your risks. We have cut our risk to the southern European sovereigns significantly. It's immaterial at this point. The same thing is true in terms of how you deal with financial institutions, certain financial institutions in Europe. We've done that. As importantly, if I have a loan I've made in Greece, then I want to make sure that I have deposits in Greece or I have funding in Greece. So if something does happen, both sides of my balance sheet as a bank are in the same currency. That also protects me.
And finally, what about the US fiscal situation? Are you confident that the US government will be able to control the deficit, given the political situation you have in the US?
Well, you know, I think when you talk to the members of the Hill, members of the Senate, the House, they all understand. I mean, this is now not an issue about we've got to do something. It's an issue of what are the components of the something we need to do. And they all also recognize that we're going to run out of time. It's not going to be absent of drama. There's no question about that. But I have a great deal of confidence that we're going to have a substantial effort at getting at the deficit post-election.
It's been great talking to you. Thanks very much, Vikram Pandit.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.